going to be a fantastic weekend. We got Brother Bobby Hemmitt in the house here at the Egyptian Corner Fine Art and Imports. That's located in Cleveland, Ohio. The North Gate. One of the North Gates. Tonight, he's going to preview a lecture that we're going to have tomorrow. The name of the lecture is called ISIS Intervention, The Return of Magical Egypt. So Bobby's going to preview tonight, and we can do some questions or whatever you want to, hear more about tomorrow. And without further ado, Brother Bobby Hemmitt.
Good evening, Cleveland. One of the major places, and I'm beginning to find out now after doing this for 15 years, I've gone to places and never went back. That means that, but I've gone to places where it became an annual thing, either twice a year, 2 times a year, and what you find out about those places is those are places that you are spiritually sent to dwell amongst the gods. It's getting fine-tuned now. What I mean by that is we took the last 15 years, at least for my journey as far as being a teacher, and the last 20-something years when this thing started out with the Afrocentric movement, which was actually a resurgence of other movements that started 60, 70 years ago. But when this thing kicked back up to the lot that would allow me to come in somewhere about 4 or 5 years after the resurgence of it, I came in 1992, literally at the weekend of the LA riots. And I came in, this thing, we spent the last, let's say from 1984, what you talk about ASCAC and different people putting stuff together. They went to this major, they took 2,000 people to Hemmitt back in 1987. And then you had the resurgence of Farrakhan, mid-90s, 95, 94, Jaime Remark. Then other groups started, the resurgence of the Moors, the resurgence of different aspects that were around from the 30s, you see, and the 60s, and then a resurgence of these things. But also this time, which was different than the resurgence of the 60s and the resurgence of the actually introduction of the 20s and the 30s with Marcus Garvey, is this time we came back and we implemented ancient Kemet. That was the difference between the stuff from the 60s. But actually you had Leo Hansberry was doing stuff in the 20s and the 30s, or the 20s and the teens. They used to call him Little Egypt when I think he went to Yale or something like that. And so this stuff is, we've always had certain people doing certain things. At this particular point, I think from the last 5 years what has started happening, we gave a lot of information and a lot of knowledge, and I gave a lot of books. Tons and tons of information if you go back and visit those tapes. Then all of a sudden, around 2000, what I was actually teaching on from 92 on up to 2000, I actually started living. I actually started living the aspect of a God. In the particular aspect, the people that I started interacting with, it was a certain spiritual thing. So the last 6 or 7 years, I have been reporting on my own spiritual account of what's going on in your life. They said that each person should get them a little notebook or a diary and keep a magical diary. It's going to be essential because the simple fact, you've been focusing on different aspects of what you would contemplate: religion, gods, goddesses, and the spiritual aspect, but it's been outside of yourself. So as a result, you say, well, how do I want to make this thing where I actually know that I'm functioning as a God? And what it is you have to get a notebook or get something and start taking a record of spiritual experiences. Now, spiritual experiences will be something, it ain't going to be nothing like the Bible where the sky open up and you see some Ezekiel wheel and the locusts and all that. And we be looking for Hollywood. Spiritual experiences is, you might walk in a store, You see what I'm saying? Like this walk in a store, and me and my queen was in Atlanta, and something would happen totally opposite. We walked in a place, and we saw that. Anybody saw this movie? The last installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean. If you hadn't seen it, you missed out on the paying the homage. The white folks say, look, whenever all this Jesus 6 stuff going on, they still say we getting our ritual together. So they paid homage to the black goddess in this movie. You see, they paid homage to the black goddess in this movie. So the goddess was named Calypso. So the day after, we realized that Vanessa Williams had played the goddess Calypso in a movie, The Odyssey, 10 years before, in 1997. So we went and got The Odyssey. And after we got it, I said, look, we passed this Greek restaurant. Now we know that the Greeks are the Phoenicians. You see what I'm saying? The Greece is 85% sickle cell rate. So this white Greek is fairly something that's probably about 100 years old. That was a black land and black people. So I met a Greek in Greektown in Detroit in 2003, and he was your complexion. You see, and that was lightened up from 2,000 years ago, but still yet. And I said, well, I want to ask you. I said, did you migrate into Greece? He said, no, my family was one of the original people there. You see, just like they said when and I'm convinced when Belle, remember Belle was on BET, and she traveled to Israel, and they took them to some Israelis that was your color, and they said we've been there from the beginning of time. And I think about a year later her show was off, and they revamped all that. So they sequester people. You see, so it's just interesting. It's just interesting when you. But to give you the spiritual experience, we went to this Greek restaurant and this woman, when we walked in, she saw my queen and she just started drawing my queen, a white girl. Started drawing my queen, and she said, I don't know how I'm going to do this because I charged for these pictures. But she gave my queen this picture. Now, that's a spiritual experience. You see, you can't take nothing for granted. For something that this woman saw, and she could be one of those ones that's got the soul. You see what I'm saying? Because it was a soul thing. You see, everything you see that appear ain't necessarily white. You see what I'm saying? This whole thing is a whole lot of stuff that's going on because this entire summer, we were treated like royalty from April to August by white people. Treated like royalty. Everywhere we went, they were bowing down to us. And I said, this is a spiritual experience that's actually happening. They know something is going on spiritual, and sometimes the spirit will move. Let me give you an example. There's a sister named Aviva in Atlanta. She said that she was in a supermarket. She was about 40-something years ago. She was at a supermarket. She was pregnant. A white woman came out of nowhere and said, name your daughter so-and-so. Whatever she told her to name her daughter, the daughter, it was after her grandmother. She wanted to name the daughter Monique. You see. And she said this woman appeared out of nowhere and told her to name the daughter after the grandmother. I forgot what the name was. And she didn't do it. You see what I'm saying? So as a result, who would have known what was manifested if she would have done that? You see what I'm saying? It could have been something that the daughter went to a certain level of spirituality, a certain greatness. You see what I'm saying? So those are what spiritual moments are. Now going back to Ohio, we know now, and that's what we're going to be dealing with now, is basically the God school level. We'll give you some incidents, some things that's happening tomorrow to show that people right around you, especially when they make the transition, when they die, you find out that their spirits are on a whole nother level, God and goddesses, and you like, talk, who would ever know? You see, so what's actually happening now is that certain cities that, and I'm just going by my experiences, when I'm invited back over and over again, where it become an annual thing, that is because those cities, that's where the gods dwell. You see. And that means it's very unique. And especially if you got a lot of murders. We talk about this too. You got a lot of murders. That means that the government, they have soothsayers, they have people on a certain plane. And what these people do is they can understand a certain amount of energy. And so they say, well, we got to beat up the murders. So we know that, and I saw on NBC News the other night, they had Tom, whatever the guy, the NBC News, they broadcast from Cleveland. It was talking about the housing thing, and they just showed rows and rows of houses. It looked like a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever things are happening like that in these cities, it means that they are tracking some people, that they are tracking some godlike energy. So Detroit is the only third world country, you see what I'm saying, in America, but Detroit is responsible for Motown. Memphis, they're killing them up in Memphis like dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But Memphis is responsible for Stax. Gary, Indiana, 3 years ago was the #1 murder capital of America. But that's where Michael Jackson and the Jackson family is from. So they happen to know that we are gods and goddesses. Now this is all going on stemming from some stuff from 1999 with Afghanistan, which we in war with Afghanistan, and Pakistan had celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
They had celebrations, and they said, what are you celebrating about? They said, we're celebrating the rising of the arrival of some hidden gods in America. This was on Pakistan and Afghanistan. And by 2001, all that was all about war. See what I'm saying? So you got to understand. And they were tracking us heavy, but they were basically locked into the conscious community. Well, the spirit world spared the conscious community by giving them Iraq, giving them the Mexican thing with the immigration. So they gave them distractions. See, everything is a series of distractions. So they got them off of us. You know what I'm saying? They got certain black leaders in their pockets. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, these people are walking sold by them. Mm-hmm. So they go and they kill Khaled.
Mm-hmm.
They lock down H-Rap Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Then they lock down Dr. York. They poisoned Farrakhan, which he admitted in 99? Said, I know now that I got poisoned. So they're looking saying, well, look, we got their major black leaders. We are infallible. So they said, we need to leave them alone. So in so many words, certain people take certain hits so that we can go under the radar. So what happened was that they was really gunning for us in 99. In the late 90s going to the millennium. They even did certain things as we stopped dying in the movies. You know what I'm saying? And they glorified us in the Matrix, and Event Horizon got a leader of the ship, and people started getting away. Then all of a sudden now, they're back killing us in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So when you see, and as a matter of fact, there's no movie that don't go about where they don't have a sacrifice of some black person.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So this is an attack. This is an attack on how they do things. So going back, we have to stop praying and looking to stuff outside of us to look at ourselves as the gods. There's only one flaw on the reason why you can't go to a higher level. We're gonna go deep into this tomorrow. One of the levels is you have to stop identifying with self. And what I mean by here is, what I had to do in a series of the last 7 years is I had to destroy what is known as Bobby Hemmitt. So Bobby Hemmitt had to become the enemy. I had to disassociate myself with self. Mm-hmm. So what they're saying here is there's all this, you are a being that is so advanced in the cosmos, but you got one aspect of yourself. It's almost like 1 hour of yourself, which is your life, that you focused on, and it's only 1 hour or 30 minutes of who you really are. And that's the part you got to get rid of, and when you get rid of that, then all things start to flow. Same thing happening with people that's coming down and you can't find out why things are not going well in your life, financially, socially, and everything. That is because the part that you know as you see what I'm saying, it has run its course. And you got to go beyond you. So you have to basically give up on self and dissolve what is commonly known as the person, whether you 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, you got to get rid of that particular person. You see what I'm saying? So, and the one way you do it is you stop trying to build the community around you and the world around you to make that, to enhance that person. Oh, I'm going to do this so I can feel good about this. I'm going to do this so I can be this. And so I'm going ahead of myself. I'm giving you a preview of what we're going to deal with tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? But these are some things that's happening. We're going to be dealing with some science coming out of Hermetic texts based on the Camite thing. What it was is from, let's say, most of the 90s, I did the whole Egyptian thing. And then in the 2000s, I started venturing out around the world. And that was what the Spirit was saying. Look, we are neglecting the earth because we are focused on one area, and what we don't realize is all the history of the earth is ours. So I had to go into Asia, India, you see what I'm saying, all different types of culture. And as a result, around in May, it started coming again, because my name is Hemmitt, which is Egyptian. It's in the Burgess Hieroglyphic Dictionary, the word Hemmitt, H-E-M-M-I-T. And it means a group of beings that will live in the last days. A group of pre-existent beings that will live in the last days, called the Hemmitt spirits. So in May, I started amassing these Egyptian statues. And as a result, between May and August, I amassed 72 of them. And made an actual kingdom. And then Anpu Anubis came. Now I got this because I did a lecture on Anubis in Anpu in New York on October the 14th, and he came back. And Anpu, he said, well, you can't get through the gateways now unless you go through me. So we had to deal with a whole lot of energy. We had to do a series of rituals for a week, and at the end of the week we had to do a feast and feed all these entities. We damn ran out of food trying to feed these goddamn. We got altars in all the rooms to entities from around the world. You know what I'm saying? And so but Anpu, we had stuff from we got a bathroom that's dedicated to Yeminya. And so we got the Lakshmi, we got the Urzuli room. You see, we have these different rooms from around the world. Kuan Yin, and then we had a whole Shiva section with East India, and then the whole 72 deities is on the complete wall of the floor. So what's happening here? Here is when we did the feast to Anpu Anubis, later on that day, Asa Hilliard died. Which is a pioneer in a lot of the Afrocentric stuff that came back. So when we got in touch with him, because that's nothing to get in touch with the dead. We was trying to find out, well, what was his spirit? They said Anpu Anubis. So these particular entities that we are seeing is us. But we have to get rid of us to experience them. You see, so I'm going ahead of myself. My mother made the transition on June the 20th, July 20th, 2006. So we did a major ritual for her down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is only 40 miles from where I grew up. And we did a ritual to her on the beach on the anniversary of her death. Now, one of the things she came, because the night she died, a whole bunch of bats came around the house. So about 40 days later, the bats came and started flying around us when we was walking up the street. And we realized then that she had gone to the higher level. So she came back and said, well, you know, Glaciria, which was her name, she said, that person is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order for you to communicate with me, you're going to have to communicate with me with who my spirit really is. So I was like, well, I know you got a spiritual name back in 94, Mentep Sing Sing. And I said, would that be sufficient? She said, yes. Now, my brother and his wife, they've been trying to communicate with them and have been no luck with communicating with my mother, because the simple fact is they're still trying to communicate with her through Glaciria. You see what I'm saying? So now it's just like when I got in contact with, and this is when you know it's really spirit. When I got in contact with Marvin Gaye, and he said, that's a beautiful, nice-looking man on that picture, but that's not who I am now. He said, and I appreciate all of that, and I still identify based on spiritually of the work I did down there. He said, but that's not me now. I'm so far removed from that. So Martin Luther King came through when his wife died, Coretta Scott King. And he was like, man, I'm so much in a whole other realm of what kind of spirit I am compared to Martin Luther King. You see what I'm saying? So my mother was adamant about that, saying, well, look here now, listen, that's it. Because what she was trying to say was that she's not going to be able to rise on a certain level if you keep clinging to the spirit that she was. Mm-hmm. So in so many words, this is what we have to also do in the human body, is we have to get out. We can't say that we're gods and we're goddesses. You see what I'm saying? And still want to be the same old nigga we was all our lives. It don't cut it that way. You say that and all, and you have to go on a journey to find out what that soul really was. Because that soul has many incarnations.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? It has many incarnations. So you have to do that. Now going back, when I amassed these statues, and I said, why am I doing this? And I got 72 of these things. When I went down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I was there. We did a ritual to Yeminya the first night, and cut on the TV, and they only had one place in the whole city, because most of it's t-shirts and all kind of crazy beach stuff, but they had one place that had artifacts called a gay dolphin. Mm. And they showed a picture of these Egyptian artifacts, and we went there, and I said, we gotta go. We went down and got a whole bunch of artifacts, and then they had a big tall Anubis, and he was like, well, I said, damn, I got 5 Anubises already. Mm-hmm. So I was gonna pass up the big tall one. He said, now you know you can't get out of here without buying me, without getting me. Then I realized, wait, there's some stuff that's going on with Anpu. There's a gateway opening. So what would happen is we would buy the bass cats. We got some cats outside that started standing just like the bass cats. This gold cat right here, bass. We put down the cats 1 minute. The next minute, we look outside and the cats outside is standing like bass. We put out an Anubis statue. A dog comes across the street and stand at our house for 2 days, standing like Anubis. Anpu. What the hell is this damn dog? Came up in the yard. I'm doing the lawnmower. I'm cutting the yard. Normally dogs won't even come around and stuff when the lawnmower is going because they don't like the sound. No, he was standing right there. What the hell is this dog? I didn't put it together. Then the next day I woke up and the dog was across the street looking at the house. I said, wait, oh shit. That's Anpu Anubis. You see what I'm saying? So now my point here is, so I'm going to show you how to do the magic with these statues. It's in the Hermetic text. Let's see, did I bring one of them? Let's see if I bring one of these books. This is one of the last ones that come out. It's fairly inexpensive. This is called Hermetica, The Lost Wisdom of the Pharaohs, by Timothy Freet and Peter Gandy. And in here is the one that there's the prophecy of how he's going to go into slavery. Everything that we have been going through was already pre-written, prophesied, and everything is quite divine. Even niggas getting their head blowed off. if you understand that there's no such thing as death. Just depends on your perspective. You know what I'm saying? Everything is the way it's supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? Just depends. There's always another side of things. So this is the prophecy. It's in this book, the Hermetica. But there's a part in here, and I think it should be in here, where Imhotep is talking to Tahuti. And Tahuti is saying that Egypt is the image of heaven. We have taken heaven, of what it is in the cosmos, and we have built a physical replica of it. And they say, how did you do it? They say, we did it through the statues. So these gods and goddesses that's amassed is in actuality the spirit realm coming through to this dimension. So when they had me amass 74 deities, you see what I'm saying? They were actually saying that we are returning, and we return through the statues. You see what I'm saying? So they was able to take a dimension that doesn't exist on earth, and they amassed and erected these statues and these images. That's why when you look in them Egyptian books, you like lose your mind. You can't get enough of it. The Kamite books. You know, in the monuments, and I've been looking at them for 20 years now, and it's still amazing. And what you don't understand is the image and the energy from the heaven realm is coming through. Now remember this. I got a guy named David Roberts. Remember that name? He painted Hemmitt before the paint fell off the walls. When they first went back into Egypt, most of that stuff was still painted. See, what has happened here is they got thousands of tourists that came. This has been coming in the last, let's say, the last 150 years. So as a result, the carbon monoxide is eroding the rocks. It's eroding the hieroglyphics. It's eroding the paint. So all the paint is gone now because they have mass tourism. You see, but when David Roberts got there in the late 1800s or mid 1800s, he painted the temples, and the temples still had the paint on it. But he went to the temple of Edfu, which is the temple of Horus, or Heru. And I saw one of these pictures that was painted, and the sand was still in most of the temple. But I saw one of these pictures that he had painted of the temple, and the spirit, I said, wait a minute. Whoever built these temples were not human. This is some God shit that's going down. You see what I'm saying? So, these statues, you see what I'm saying? When you put them together, you bring an energy and you bring a spiritual vortex through to this dimension. You see what I'm saying? Through to this dimension. You see what I'm saying? So what had happened was here, when it was coming back to this kingdom thing, and I'm going to show you what's starting to come up, because once we erected this whole room, see what had happened was I had a whole house full of stuff from around the world. I had Egyptian artifacts and stuff. I always had them because I started out in Kemet. But they said, no, you got to up the ante. So we had to go and do 74 pieces. I think it's up to like 78 now. Pieces, and I mean huge statues and all this stuff. And I don't know where the money came from. I'm like saying, I mean, most of the statues are $60. Some of the smaller ones are 20 something, but it happened in a matter of months. So when we did this, all this energy started coming through. And I'm going to tell y'all what stuff started coming through. There's layers and layers of the spirit world that we are now experiencing. Mm-hmm. There's whole layers of this type of stuff. The first thing that happened is every night we wake up and somebody dumped trash all in the front of our house. And then we found out what was going on. Most of the houses is abandoned. People might throw a cup there because they figure nobody lived there. You see what I'm saying? And we said, what is going on? But what had happened is the house had cloaked itself in a certain dimension. So people was thinking the house, they was even thinking it was a vacant lot or whatever. And that's the same thing had rolled on me when I told you after 9/11 and it was like the 50-something cops roll up, try to get me. Because I had evaded them from New York. Because I was supposed to go back on a plane ticket and I didn't get that plane ticket. They was looking for me at the airport right after they blew up the buildings. and they came in on me, and me and the sister Kimberly was standing on the front porch, and they couldn't even see us. Then on December the 19th, that's when the Lord of the Rings thing opened in the movies, and they rolled on us again and got the wrong street. You see what I'm saying? That's, so it was cloaked in a dimension. So that's the same thing that used to happen with Marie Laveau. They used to try to roll on Marie Laveau in New Orleans and go to try to arrest her, and the house would be gone. It's in the movie The Shadow with Alex Baldwin. One of the guys from Tibet came and put up this building, and the building was been there for years, but once he moved in and set up residence and made it a spiritual vortex, then people was going right past the building and didn't even know it was there. You see, so you can cloak yourself that way. It's just like they went to Haiti to get a voodoo master that they thought was Horus in 1994 when they kicked out Aristide. And then they brought Aristide back, and the guy, the so-called warrior they kicked out, said that the American government paid us to kick him out. Play both sides against the middle. And they tried to get this voodoo guy, but they couldn't find him and stuff because he was in another dimension. You see what I'm saying? Now, so these statues, but how you activate these statues. Now, let me explain something. I said, well, because we always think big. Well, this is not Egypt. They had colossal statues. They said, no, if you go and really understand the Temple of Karnak, it was a half a mile long and a half a mile wide. Half a mile long and a half a mile wide. But the actual, and they would go through, the priest would go through the beginning of the pylons, and the high priest was the only one that could go to, a few high priests, to the Sanctum Sanctorum, the Holy of Holies. And when they get there, the statue was this size. A big temple now, a half a mile long and a half a mile wide, and the statue that they would venerate each day was about this size. You see what I'm saying? So they said, well, I said, in that case, the houses, when I got all these 72 statues, that means it's authentic. And I said, so what you want? I said, you want some alcohol? They like, no. We want. I said, they didn't want the alcohol. They said that they wanted Florida water. And then I saw especially what they had to do is the Florida water is key, because what happens here is you got to go in and you got to spray these statues down and wash these statues daily, or at least every 2 or 3 days or every other day, at least 2 or 3 times a week. You see, but they used to do it every day. You see what I'm saying? But you can at least, we know we're in the modern world. You see what I'm saying? You can at least do it 2 or 3 times a day, and it's amazing. Me and my queen got in an argument, and we don't get in arguments, but we got in a knockdown, drag-out argument, and it was all, when we found and sifted through stuff, it's because we had let the dust pile up over a 2-week period, and the spirits was trying to get our attention to say, you need to clean this damn floor up. I was putting the Florida water and all the stuff on the statues, but the floor that it was on, I was negating the floor that it was on. So it's not a form of worship in the aspect of we worshiping these statues or we worship. No, but we're talking about science now. It's no different than oil in your car, or putting gas in your car, or fine-tuning your stuff. It's the same. It's the same application that you would apply to science or apply to something. You see what I'm saying? So the cleaning of it is bringing a certain energy through. You see what I'm saying? So we're talking about a scientific methodology other than worshiping. You see what I'm saying? Because ultimately these entities, ultimately they're saying, look, all we are is components that's inside of you. We're going to go into that deep tomorrow on where they are and locate them and different things like that. So now, what we're dealing with here is a level of being more advanced, you see what I'm saying, than getting outside of these certain groups. I'm this, and I'm that, and I'm this, and I'm that. I'm a Moor, I'm an Egyptian, I'm all this shit. And basically, then there's another level. That's why you have to give up. Then there's another level that's not even human. And so what happened with me, I faced that in September. Got to a point, I'm like, I got all this knowledge and all this information. I walked in the kitchen one night and I said, I'm lost. I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. I'm lost. And I said, fuck it, I give up. Hell with it all. And then when I gave up, I went to another level. You see what I'm saying? I gave up the last little bit of Bobby Hemmitt, the teacher. You see what I'm saying? And then you go to another level. Because all we're doing is shedding different aspects of our illusionary self, which is our existence. You see what I'm saying? Which is our existence. Now, we're going to go in this tomorrow because I've done 3 lectures based on this goddess. But she came in July and said, look, I'm the last remaining one in Kemet that's been underworld and on the bottom for the longest. So she is the opposite of Isis. And what Isis is this way, she's this way. She's the black Isis, or the black Isis. And we had to raise her up. And we had to raise her up. We're going to go into different things on that particular level. But now, going back, the company that we was ordering that I got most of the statues from, I was looking for a tall enough statue. I needed a statue of segment this tall. So I had to go search online. And I got this statue of the goddess segment. So, when I got the statue, the day that the UPS was coming, it started warming up. And by the time the statue got there, it was a heat wave. And I said, yeah, she is the god of heat. And the god of the scorching heat of what is called the second Aru. The god of the summertime. And they say that in actuality, they said that the Arabs used to say it. And they say that in actuality, that the heaven realm or the paradise realm is heat. Is heat. The Arabs used to say heaven is hot. Not the you say hell is hot. No, they say the heaven is hot based on the star Sirius that rises at, anytime from July 23rd. Some say July 21st. Different aspect. So they say that. So even in that book called Star Names, Their Allure and Their Meaning by Richard Captain. What's that guy's name? It's called Star Names, Their Allure and Meaning. That's the and in there they said they got an ancient text where the Arabs used to say heaven is hot. So when the segment statue showed up, we got in a heat wave, and the heat wave was so severe in Atlanta till they had about 3 weeks of record-breaking heat, and it dried up the both lakes, and now we're gonna run out of water in about 4 months. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna run out of water, and I already know what it was. I said, no, this shit was in there. I said, no, I said, because we had to work to get the one I wanted. When that statue came, the heat wave came, and it was coming on the news saying, this is record breaking. Each day they said, we've never had this before. And anytime you have some stuff where they've never had it before, you see what I'm saying? And it break all previous records. And hell, we down south. We right on top of Florida. So heat ain't no stranger to no Georgia. All of a sudden they're talking about record breaking. That means that some shit done happened in the atmosphere. There's something that has happened there's some porthole that's open. And Sekhmet came in and she dried up both major lakes. Lake Allatoona and Lake Lanier. Dried these lakes up, and now they get ready to run out of water. But check the spirit world out. I saw this vision of this reflecting pool. You know this reflecting pool you see in D.C.? But I saw a vision of a pool that was reflecting from the capital downtown all the way to my house, and it was almost 4 miles long. And there was water coming out of the sky, hitting the pool and flowing into the pool. And I said, oh shit, that's where all the damn water went. The water is in another dimension. And now the water drying up. See, there's things that's happening on this realm, and we're trying to figure it out here, but it's happening in another realm. It's just like all the bees disappeared in America. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. At the first of the year. Mm-hmm. Beehives, they go out there, the beehives empty. Ain't like no dead bees. No, they go out and the bees are gone. See, it wasn't like, well, something is killing the bees. Right. No, they went out there and the damn bees have disappeared. See, it's one thing to say, well, you might have had some pesticide or something. and you walk out and the bees are all on the ground dead. But it's another thing when you go out and open up your shit and the bees are gone, they done got the hell on. You see? So the bees was going. Now, Einstein said when the bees go, you got 4 years. And right at that time, that's 2012 based on when they announced it. So check it out. This is when I knew it was a dimension. It was at some Mexican place, Mexican supermarket, and they had these blue crabs. We bought a pile of these things. They had them for like $10. You can get down to 30 of them. You know, so, you know, since it's been long days since I've been a vegetarian, it's on. So we bought these blue crabs and boiled them and went in the backyard and started eating them. And the bees showed up. Started eating them. And the bees showed up. They didn't come out the sky. They appeared out of thin air. Like another dimension. They was like in this dimension. The bees showed up. And I go, what is about bees and crab? They was all over. They wasn't stinging us or nothing. We was eating and the ship was swarming with bees. And we would throw a few shells would get on the ground and they'd be all over them. So whatever it was that day with them blue crabs, it produced something. You see what I'm saying? Now, earlier this year, it's like I become obsessed. I went in and I did a whole bathroom to Yemmitt. And I said, I'm not going to do blue, I'm going to do turquoise and aquamarine. That's what she was telling me to do. So I did the bathroom, did all this stuff, and did a whole bathroom to Yemmitt. So, which is the goddess of the sea, Big Mama. So did these, and I got a Yemmitt picture in here, so that I'm selling. So did a whole bathroom to Yemmitt. And then she took over the house. The curtains all became turquoise in the bedroom, in the living room. So then somebody called me and said, it's the end of the world. Woman from Charlotte. She said, I don't know. She said, I can't explain it. She said, end of the world, like it's the divine paradise. It's beautiful. And I'm like, well, she said, I can't explain this energy. I said, so what is this? All I know is I just see this turquoise. I said, that's Yemmitt on this thing. So then all of a sudden the queen comes from England and all the little white folks got on all the black and the hats and stuff. She breaks out in fucking turquoise. So I get on the bullhorn to the soothsayers, like, what the fuck going on? She said, she got her people. And when they go certain places, they tell her, no, there's some turquoise stuff that's going on over there with the Yemmitt thing. So the queen broke out in damn turquoise of their queen. You see what I'm saying? So when we got the blue crabs during the summer, the bees came back. So she is called Big Mama, and bees are centralized around a queen bee. So the bees came back.
Wow.
Out of the dimension. But if you can see the movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, when they venerated the Great Mother, what came out of her dress? Thousands of crabs. You see? So all this stuff is spiritual that's going on. You see? So this is when we knew some stuff that was up. There was a little warfare going on between me and the Orishas. I didn't start it. But what happened was, remember on the movie Ghostbusters, they say, do not mix the streams. They said, they said, what happens? They said, this bad shit gonna happen. We don't know, but don't mix the streams. It ain't good. So, in 2000, I did a ritual where I mixed Apollo with the Orishas, and all hell broke out. So the Orishas came up and said, I'm going to kill your ass. Lagoon tried to kill me, and all kinds of stuff happened. So and so a whole bunch, it was real nasty. And so what happened was, there was a little warfare going on. So I went to Detroit. This is some stuff is spiritual. Get a call from a lady. She said, I want you to come do a class of Black History Month at this college. I'm like, okay, cool. Get to the college, all white. I do 2 classrooms. They're going to pay you what you want. Your honorarium is $650. They're going to pay you $650, and you're going to do a 30-minute class on Monday and a 30-minute class on Tuesday. So when I get to class on Monday, I got two black people in the class on Monday and 2 black people on Tuesday. And they all act like they even scared to even listen to this shit. White kids is all into it. So, but I was like, I said, something's familiar about y'all crackers up in there. But I remember, I said, wait a minute, something's going on, but I forgot. They are now hip-hop. See, this giving away, it used to be, you got the rock and roll, and then you got a lot of white folks getting into hip-hop in the 90s. Now that's all cleared out. All these white folks, all these white children in the early 20s that's now in college, they straight out thugged out. So when I went up in there, like, they was like, yo, you bring it, man, and shit. I'm like, I can't believe this. I said, this thing done taking over these people's brains. I know they white, I know their parents got to be concerned because they are basically thugged out. And I'm like, damn, they're all laid back and stuff like that. So they accepted what I was saying, what little 30 minutes I did have. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But I said, I know that they didn't send me to Detroit just to come up to talk to these class of white folks. So the day when I get ready to leave out on that Tuesday, the sister said, I want you to go meet another brother at a college that's about 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away. So we went to go meet this brother. And this brother was a voodoo vocour, was trained out of New Orleans, but he teaches a writing class, but he's tenure, they can't get rid of him. And so we went to his writing class, he taught for another 10, 15 minutes, and we went to an Ethiopian restaurant, and he said, we got to go by my house. So we went by his house. I'm like, oh shit. And went out there, he had a big old Ogun pot. I said, oh shit. So he had the Ogun. He had altars in every room, but he had the voodoo outside in the garage. No, he had voodoo in one room. He had the Apollo in the garage. I said, I hope you ain't mixing them. He was like, no, I ain't fucking around like that. So, but he had them in different things. So I went there. And we went in the house, he said, you know we got to drink some. I said, you know. He said, you know, so we went in the house and we started. That's when I saw his bathroom made out of blue. That I said, I'm going to Yeminya, I said, I'm going to do mine. So we started drinking, and it was real peace and serene. I'm like, I know damn well I'm sitting up in the enemy's lair, and it is peace and serene. So we had a little thing, went to the airport. I missed the plane. I said, oh, shit. What's going on? So the sister who had me, she said, well, my house is in Detroit. His house is right near the airport. It'll take you another 20 minutes to get from my house because I had to be back. In order to get a free flight out, I had to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to be there at 7 o'clock. A 7 o'clock flight. So she said, oh, no, you're going to have to go and spend the night at the brother's house. Oh, Lord. I jumped on the phone. I said, Linda, you need to get on there. I need to find out what's going on because I'm going to spend the night with Ogun in them. So she said, hold on. So she called back. She said they came through. She said Razuli came through, and Razuli brokered the deal. They want a truce. I said, cool. When I got back, the brother said, Ogun blocked your flight.
Wow.
I said, well, before the fallout, my whole family was Obatala. He said, well, you got to go sleep in the Obatala room.
Oh,
so I said, wait a minute, hold on, something's going on here. Because there's a truce. I said, no way, they're going to have a truce with the Apollo. The truce, they said, all that shit is coming together. So I knew then when the gods started having the truce, I said, wait, there's some stuff that's going on. I said, they done had a truce. Well, they used to say, don't mix the streams. All that stuff done came together. All of the Apollo, the Voodoo, the Yoruba, the Camite, and all of this stuff started coming together. They said, I said, wait a minute, we getting ready to go to a whole nother level with some stuff. And that's when I went back and did the whole Yeminya bathroom. Because Yeminya was always with me. Even when the shit went down, Yeminya said, I love you. She was always with me. Oshun, they had a battle between Yeminya and Oshun in 2001, fighting over me. But Oshun got the, Oshun, she won out. So when I got with Oshun, and did her altar one side of the house, and next thing I know, damn house got sick, and next thing I know, the landlord knocking on my door. And I'm like, hell, he ain't knocked on my door in 4 years. And then I said, okay, then she done weasel her way in, and she trying to destroy my ass. So anyway, what it was is, it was a family fight, but then they started having the truce. And I said, wait a minute, there's some stuff that is going on. You see, stuff that is going on. So let me give you an example on some stuff about the major stuff based on the gods. Because that's where we are. They said now there was a whole bunch of gods that is supposed to be rising. But what it is we've been learning, and we've been aspiring to attribute all of the accolades to something outside of ourselves. And now those particular entities, and we're going to go into there in a boat floating around in our central nervous system. I'm going to get into that tomorrow. I'm going to show you the proof and everything, all this stuff.
Damn.